Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Elivaras, and welcome back to Total War Warhammer. Today, a 1v1 submitted by the legend where he takes on Juan Joel X, and in square brackets, DDG. This is Wood Elves versus Beastmen, and you can see the comps on the screen, and I'll be going a little bit into them once we hop into this battle. Alright, so now, slow motion, and let's take a look. Here is the Beastmen army setup from Juan Joel. We have 4 units of Gor Herd in the front, and in the center, a unit of Bestigor Herd. 3 units of Ungor Spearmen Herd with some bronze chevrons, and we've also got a Gorebull, along with a Bray-Shaman of Wild, and Morghur the Shadowgave. And in the forest, off to the Beastmen's right flank, they've got a unit of Centigors with great weapons and a unit of Chaos Warhounds with poison, but it's hard to tell because they're all kind of clumped. Chaos Warhounds with poison, yes. And on the other flank, we have another unit of Centigors with great weapons, or 2 units of Centigors with great weapons and a unit of Chaos Warhounds with poison. So a lot of cav, which is actually pretty good against the Wood Elves, get a lot of early pressure on them and, make sure that you shut down a lot of the potential archers they could be bringing, because a lot of cav is going to be hard for the Wood Elves to deal with, even with the amount of spears, since a lot of the spears need to be in the front line. You can see from the Wood Elves' point of view, we've got 2 units of Wild Riders off on their, which way am I looking from here? Off on their left flank, just a little bit above their force. We've got then their main force here. We take a look through the trees. 3 units of Eternal Guard with shields, or nope, just normal Eternal Guard, and then another Eternal Guard here. We got 3 units of Treekin with some chevrons, and Glade Guard with Starfire shafts and Hagbane tips. Starfire shafts not a super bad idea against Beastmen, as the Gorebulls do have pretty heavy armor, and you're going to want to be taking those down. But the variety of most of the Beastmen roster doesn't have armor, so I would probably say 3 Hagbane tips or only 1 Starfire shaft would really be necessary. Although I guess if you're using it just as a Gorebull killing weapon, then it's pretty good. So now, as we hop into the battle here, you can see we do have the 2 units of Wild Riders on the flank. Now, for some reason, Juan Joel here, he's got his 2 units here, but they're, he can see a lot of this enemy force, and he can see that they're here. And I guess he doesn't know these Wild Riders are here, but these Wild Riders are going to immediately become exposed as they try and charge. Right now they're exposed. What he should be doing right now is pulling away, but instead what he decides to do is he decides to charge and go for an engagement here. Centigors with great weapons are going to do pretty well against Wild Riders. The Chaos Warhounds are going to get absolutely destroyed, but what he forgets to take into account is the fact that the Wood Elves have a lot of arrow pressure. So he's got all his units of archers, which are now going to push forward and pour into the flank. I say pour a lot, and I apologize for that. They're going to rain arrows into the flank of these Centigors. So definitely not a smart engagement for Juan Joel to take. I would not have engaged there, especially with the arrow fire. But now he is bringing all his cav to reinforce. But at this point, it's a little bit too little, too late from his perspective, as his 2 units of cav have already been destroyed. You can see he's pushing up a large portion of his force up the middle here. Now he is sending the cav forward. He's got the Chaos Warhounds with poison to screen. But again, the archers are in range. It's not what you want. The archers are just able to, just fire and fire and fire and absolutely decimate these Centigors. If they didn't take this engagement where arrows could fire, they would be doing much better. But now they're losing so much health to arrow fire. What they should have had is, you can see now, you don't want to just throw all your cav units in right at the start of the gate. You want it right out of the gate. You want to wait for openings. And, hold it, things are getting a little, tense here. Okay, no, not that fast. You want to wait for openings. So what he should have done was, if he saw, the main force here and then these cav units pouring out of the forest here, what he should have done was taken his soldiers and brought them back, or his cav and brought them back. Don't sit here, because they're going to get destroyed by the combined forces of the archers and the cavalry. Should have done is pulled these guys out. Now, he did have more units over on this side of the map. What he should have done was waited, and you can see now a kind of division in the Legends line here, where he's got all his melee units crammed into this kind of corner here, but now he's got a huge, these guys are all exposed. So while Juan Joel is pushing around with the Gor Herd, it would have been a lot more devastating and a lot more effective if he had some of these Centigors and these Cav forces remaining so that they could come in and flank the archers. You can see there's not many spears in reserve. The only thing he's really got to defend with is his Glade Lord. But this would have been a golden opportunity, and sadly he missed it by sending all of his Cav over this way and engaging the Wild Riders while they were in range of the rest of the Elven archers. We can see here in the front line that that the Beastmen have pushed forward here. We've got Morghur in the mix. Actually, I think that's the Bray-Shaman. But we do have, yeah, Morghur is right there. We've got the whole Beastmen army engaging the Wood Elf army here. So the Wood Elves are going to be doing pretty well in this pretty tightly packed spot. You know, the Treekin are going to be holding the line really well, especially with the Spellsinger of Life. Now, he does, or Juan Joel does spawn a Cygor in the back lines, which isn't actually not a bad idea, as the Cygor is going to act to completely tie up the Wood Elf archers, or at least this one unit of archers here. They're not going to be able to do much firing while the Cygor is pounding into them. We can see, we do see a nice net from the Glade Lord on this Gor Herd. Now, another thing I will say as we pop this into slow motion is, while this main engagement happened and these things happened, the Glade Lord is just kind of, sitting here. I would recommend, especially early on in the fight, especially against Beastmen, potentially send the Glade Lord over here, get a good flanking charge into these Bestigor Herd, or these Ungor Spearmen Herd. She does lots of damage, especially on a dragon, and these guys are very low armor, so she would absolutely tear them apart, and the terror would really help in getting them to rout. But for the most part of the battle, she's just been standing here. We could have also had her come over here and help in the Cav engagement, potentially help against, potentially help her Wild Riders so that they could win that engagement more handily and then have some health left over to help. But you can see she's kind of just been sitting here, and I would say this is a little bit of a mistake. I would say definitely try and potentially either, maybe not push up here in this moment, but earlier on, she should have either pushed this way, potentially pushed this way. But you have to be very careful when you do push in with your Lord, especially, with a Glade Lord who's on a dragon, really big target. You want to make sure that she doesn't get basically mucked or singled out by the enemy. So you have to pay very close attention to her if you do send her in, but she can be very devastating. You can see she's still sitting here. She should definitely be sent in at this point, and she has been. But now you can see some of the Beastmen have pierced through the lines. Gorebull coming through, and now is going to try and tear the Spellsinger to shreds, which he will do a very good job of if he wasn't focusing on Eternal Guard. You can see now the Legend is retreating his archers backwards. I would say at this point, you definitely want to spread your archers out. Okay, don't have all your archers clumped, because, one unit here could potentially act to tie up all three. So send maybe one archer this way, one archer this way, one archer this way, as he's starting to do now. But this archer should definitely be moved over here. You can have one over here and one over here so that they can't all be tied up. Because yes, they can move while firing, but they can't move and fire backwards. You can see he has done well for himself here with this unit firing in. And now if we go over to the frontline engagement, we can see a huge cluster. A lot of these Beastmen were tied up by the fact that the Wood Elves got them in this pass here. Because the Wood Elves managed to tie them in this pass, they can't use this numbers advantage and flank around. So you can see a huge amount of Beastmen are just idle here, not fighting. Now in the back lines, the Centigors do manage to flank the Wood Elf archers, the Glade Guard, and they're going to be taking a ton of damage, especially as these two were clumped. Not going to be doing hot in that engagement, but now the Wild Riders are going to come in and reinforce and take out these Centigors. Now, they did do a lot of damage to the archers, which is good for them. And we can see the Glade Lord is being sent in to try and take out this Cygor. Not a bad target, as the Cygor is being really annoying in the back line. We have a unit of idle archers back here, which he should start getting firing soon. One thing that I know a lot of players miss, and I struggle with too, is, units that come back with routing, or units that you spend running away, you just forget to put them back up because of, or to retarget them because of everything that's going on. But that's definitely a place that almost all players can improve. Now we can see here, the Glade Lord is taking quite a beating from the Cygor. She's taking a lot of damage, and a little bit of a mistake here, but the Glade Lord is between the archers and their target, and therefore the archers are essentially just shooting their own lord. Something that I believe the Legend missed, but he's going to have to, well, that players should pay attention to in their battles. Just make sure that your lord is not between you know, the archers that are firing. I've seen that happen a lot of times, and it did happen to me in my Deepwood Scouts video. Something to pay attention to. You can see she's taking a lot of damage, and a decent amount of that was from the Hagbane tips, or, you know, the Starfire shafts. In the front line, we do see Chaos Spawn being spawned from Morghur. At this point, not sure if it's a great idea to run them this way. You know, there's not a whole lot left back here. I suppose the Cav, they're not going to do, you know, amazing against Cav. They'll do decent, but I'd say potentially now would have been a good time to send those Chaos Spawn over this way and just flank, you know, the majority of this Wood Elf army here. You know, because again, you know, they're still tied up with... There's hardly any actual Wood Elves left here. You know, it's a lot of Treekin. Most of the Eternal Guard have been killed, but they're still all tied up right in front of this force. You know, there's no flanking maneuvers or anything going on. I feel like it would have been a good idea for him to take the Chaos Spawn and charge them in the rear. Probably would have done some more damage. You can see the Chaos Spawn are getting ripped to shreds by the archers right now. The Glade Lord, though, has taken so much damage. She has popped the Potion of Toughness. That's going to help her hopefully survive. But at this point, you know, I would not have her fighting. Definitely pull out. She's taking more damage than she needs to. And especially to kill Morghur, who's at full health, you're going to need your Glade Lord. You can see it's really in the favor of Juan Jul at this point in the battle. Wood Elf line is still holding out pretty well, but unfortunately the Legend did make a bit of a mistake, and his Spellsinger ends up getting completely routed, essentially. She was just standing here, and when they started to push through and target her, he didn't end up moving her out, which meant that she is now routing from the field and is not coming back. Now, though, that the Wood Elves have kind of been, or these archers have been freed up, you know, the enemy Cav force and other forces that they sent this way have been tied up or taken care of. Now we have these archers that are able to pour into the flank of the remaining Beastmen forces. Now we do see the Ungor Spearmen Herd making an appearance again, but they have very low leadership and very low health. They're not going to be doing much. You know, one charge by these Wild Riders, and they are going to get absolutely decimated. So let's, you know, take a look here, get a nice little zoom in of the Wild Riders tearing through these Ungor Spearmen. You know, they're getting absolutely decimated here. They are certainly not going to be returning to the fight after this charge. You can see more lines of them are going to get equally decimated. And now we can see Juan Jul is bringing over this Bray-Shaman of Wild. Morghur is also coming over too, and the Gorebull is trying to finish wrapping up these Treekin. It started to go a little bit back in the Legend's favor, but still pretty far in Juan Jul's favor as Morghur is at full health. One thing that you're going to notice pretty soon is the Legend starts to target Morghur with his archers. While in theory that's a good idea, in practice it's actually really bad, because Morghur has a 70%... No, Morghur the Shadowgave, come on. 75% missile resistance and magic and 20% magic resistance. So let's take a look at these archers for a second here. Glade Guard with Starfire shafts, right? They have armor piercing, but 75% missile resistance means they're going to be doing hardly anything, and their attacks are also magical, which means they're doubly going to be doing nothing. So essentially, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily a additive, but you could say that 95% of the damage is being mitigated. You can see he's taking jack squat in terms of damage from these archers. So I would say the best target here would be the Gorebull. You know, he's on low health, and he's I'd say a bigger threat than Morghur at this point, because he's a lot more of a melee threat. You can see the Legend is starting to get his archers firing. Now at this point though, those archers are a little bit clumped. You know, they get hit by a devolve there. I would say, again, you want to move these archers out. You know, get one unit over here, this one over here. Don't have them all in a compact group here. Now, we see the Glade Lord does come into the fight. And one thing that I would recommend doing to most players in this situation, where you've got, you know, one tanky Lord here, is don't leave, especially a flying Lord on a dragon, don't leave your Lord just sitting there, you know, attacking him. Because if Morghur targets the Glade Lord, he's going to do a lot of damage to her, and she might end up routing, especially at the health she has. So at this point, what you want to do is abuse the charge animation. You know, charge in, knock him down so he can't do any damage, and then retreat. And then charge in, you know, knock him down, and then retreat. And then charge in, and then retreat. And charge in, and then retreat. And essentially just rinse and repeat. He's not going to be doing anything. He does have, I believe, his, not exactly sure if it's a spell or an ability. Punch his hit points, Apocalyptic Vision. But he does have the spell where he can spawn the, what do they call it? The Chaos Spawn from the 10% health or less units. So if he does have that Winds of Magic, that could heavily swing the fight in their favor. Even it still says it's quite in their favor, but that would swing the fight even more. You know, there's a lot of low health archer units around that he could target that ability on. He might be out of Winds of Magic at this point, but you never know. I've had it happen in a match like this where it just came down to me and trying to cycle charge Morghur to death, and I had a few archer units left. Then he spawned Chaos Spawn, absolutely destroyed me. You can see Chaos Spawn, yep, being spawned right there. That's going to be hard for the Legend to overcome. We do see the Glade Guard with Hagbane tips firing into the rear of these Bestigor Herd, and now there is Gor Herd that are... There's not many of them, there's 20, but they're trying to chase off these Glade Guard with Hagbane tips, but their leadership is not doing well. See, Glade Lord just sitting here. At this point, what I'd be doing with the Glade Lord, you know, just charge, cycle charge, no matter what it is. Maybe get the Bray-Shaman out of here early, you know, rather than Morghur, because Morghur's really tanky. But charge the Bray-Shaman, retreat. Charge the Bray-Shaman, retreat. Charge the Bray-Shaman, retreat. You know, she shouldn't just be sitting here, especially if she doesn't have any ammo. See, archers getting pulled into the fray now as they do not have any ammo left. You can see the Glade Lord does charge in here. Fortunately, does miss that attack, or gets blocked with the melee defense of the Bray-Shaman. You can see more archer units out of ammo charging into the battle here. It started to go back in the favor of the Legend. Whew, excuse me. Back in the favor of the Legend as the Bray-Shaman starts to take a lot of damage. Still a tiny bit in favor of Juan Joel, as Morghur will be a pain in the butt to kill. But now, as the Bray-Shaman is about to die, completely rout, it's going to be bad news for the Beastmen hordes. This is looking like a potential Wood Elf victory. Now, at this point, you know, you kill this Bray-Shaman and then come back and again, cycle charge, cycle charge, cycle charge. Right, just keep cycle charging. And that means that Morghur is going to be doing way less damage to your troops because he's not going to be hitting half as often because he's going to keep getting charged from the flank, essentially. And he also can't really hurt the Glade Lord like that because he's just going to get knocked down and then the Glade Lord can pull away as she's surrounded by her own friendly troops, and he is not. You can see he's taking jack squat in terms of damage, but I've noticed that the Glade Lord actually does do quite a bit of damage to Morghur, on the dragon anyways, if you can get her in there. You know, still just flying around, giving that encourage aura, but I would definitely be cycle charging at this point if I've reiterated that enough times. You can see now it's essentially, you know, just a clumped up fight here. Morghur in the center of all these Treekin, and it's basically over, I would say, for the Beastmen at this point. You know, Morghur's not going to be able to hold them all off on his own. Maybe if he had another Chaos Spawn, he could. But at this point, it looks like he's burned through his Wind of Magic. Cycle charging with the Wild Riders. Good amount of damage there. But it looks like this is essentially going to be it. And another just a little slight, you know, mechanical mistake there. The Legend had his Glade Lord. The Legend had his Glade Lord right on top of the blob. So when he sent his Glade Lord in, the Glade Lord wasn't able to actually get like a charge animation. She would kind of like, you know, circled around and then landed over here and then walked forward. Essentially what you want if you're going to be charging in is you want to have maybe your Lord like potentially here or here, far away from the fight so they can get that full charge animation of charging this way and right into the face rather than, you know, kind of circling around and then charging in. And now as Morghur is getting destroyed by the Glade Lord right now, he does fully rout. And that will be a Pyrrhic victory for the Legend. So let's take a look at the final standings here. We can see Treekin actually did quite a bit of work. Treekin, very, very, very tanky. Will do a lot of work to Beastmen forces as they are unarmored. Wild Riders doing a good job. Glade Lord on a dragon, definitely against Beastmen. You should be getting like almost over 100 kills unless they bring some wacky low unit count build. But Glade Lord on dragon definitely did a lot of work. Could have done more. You know, there's more things. You know, in the start of the game, he could have been sending it to multiple points in the battlefield and helping out the forces. You know, getting some good flanking charges in the rear. You know, get some terrifying Get some terrifying up in here. Wild Riders did well. Joel, say biggest mistake is definitely in the early game. You know, he had his unit of Centigors with great weapons and Chaos Warhounds in the forest, and he decided he was going to charge them at the Wild Riders, which is not necessarily a really good engagement. I mean, it's decent, but especially with the arrow fire, you know, they're just going to get completely melted. And we saw he did charge the other unit of Chaos Warhounds with poison and the other Centigors over, but they were too little too late. He should have, you know, kind of massed his cavalry forces and potentially send them on both flanks, or charge the Wild Riders when they do not have that missile support. So yeah, I think that is going to be it for today. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Strategical Analysis. And remember, if you have any replays you would like potentially featured in a video, send them over to elivarsloa@gmail.com. The link is in the description below. And, you know, give me your feedback in the comments. Anything you think I should improve, anything you didn't like, anything you did like. Always happy to hear from you guys. I would like to thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Cheers, guys.